Give me some volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto.
Divorce rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men.
Barack Obama didn't retire. He went full Hollywood, swapping the White House podium for a Netflix microphone and a beachfront mansion. Now he's dropping memoirs like mixtapes and handing out advice from a throne built on contradictions. Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld aren't buying the polished act. They're ripping to the smooth facade to expose the real legacy. All style, zero substance. Get ready for a ruthless roast where charisma collides with cold reality and walks away with production deal.
Can I get a glass of water? I'm serious. I'm thirsty. Can I get a glass of water? This is not a prank. You never seen it?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Oh,
it's amazing.
No.
He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this, like this.
Problem
He's
is solved?
bullshitting the world. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? What? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him. No, you bring a fucking water on stage.
Is Obama gay, needing attention over an old letter? What? I should read that again. Anyway, no, we'll just keep going. The New York Post obtained a redacted portion of a handwritten letter the former president sent to his then college girlfriend, Alex McNear. Alex, eh? Back in 1982. He talked about his, quote, androgynous mind and wrote, and I'm quoting Obama here, I make love to men daily, but in the imagination.
Barack Obama strolled into history armed with a pen, a teleprompter, and the confidence of a man who mistook hope for an actual policy plan. It's almost poetic how he spoke so eloquently for 8 straight years, yet managed to say absolutely nothing. His presidency felt like a TED Talk with Secret Service protection. Deep-sounding words, hollow results, and a fan base that applauded like he'd cured cancer every time he so much as raised an eyebrow.
Michelle Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans
Joe Rogan
it.
circles like a shark that smells blood in a sea of narrative-driven nostalgia. You know Joe. If you've ever wrestled a bear on mushrooms while debating quantum mechanics in a sauna, you've basically had lunch with him. When he looks at Obama's legacy, he doesn't see a statesman. He sees a stand-up comic who somehow landed a Netflix special without telling a single joke. From Obama's first, let me be clear. Rogan knew there'd be no clarity, just a political version of interpretive dance. All movement, zero substance.
You know, he was roasting Trump in the audience, and you could see Trump in his head going, oh, okay, I'm going to run now. Like, that might have been the thing that got him to run.
No one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac?
That one moment where Obama was talking to him might be the reason why Trump was like, uh-huh.
Then there's Greg Gutfeld, stepping in with that trademark smirk that says, asterisk, I'm about to shred your public image with nothing but sarcasm and a can of Red Bull. Asterisk, and Obama gave him the perfect canvas. Here's a guy who bagged a Nobel Peace Prize before he even picked up the White House keys, then spent 8 years drone striking half the Middle East while Hollywood elites serenaded him. It was like watching a self-proclaimed pacifist win a UFC belt before round 1, then charge into the octagon wielding a steel chair and acquire a journalist for backup.
President number 44 wants to help the left censor more. Former President Obama, if that's his real name. is launching a campaign to stop the spread of disinformation, which he called a real challenge for our democracy. And also for his former Veep, who's challenged by questions like, what's my name and why am I
Joe
nude in the
Rogan
Rose
tackles
Garden?
foreign policy, like a pit bull tearing into a pair of overpriced Italian loafers. He's not politely dissecting diplomacy. He's calling out like a UFC ref watching a fighter tap out under an avalanche of strategic airstrikes. Rogan sees Obama's infamous red line in Syria the way a survivalist sees a broken compass. Completely useless, yet somehow still dangerous. The man threatened the dictator with all the intensity of a school principal scolding a kid for skipping lunch. Spoiler alert, Assad didn't flinch.
Because Obama said he was a jackass.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing up there? Do that? He's a jack.
It's like, oh, really? Well, f*** you.
It was about the Taylor Swift thing.
Now, all this stuff.
That guy's a jack. It wasn't even
Yeah.
that harsh of an incident. And he said it privately, and I think somebody heard it. I don't think he said it to be public.
I'm assuming all this stuff. Where's the pool? Come on, guys. Cut the president some slack.
Oh, here it is.
Seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award.
Why would he do that?
He's a jack. No.
Gutfeld jumps on an economic angle and roasts it like the world's driest turkey. He drags out that infamous shovel-ready jobs promise and spins it into a Broadway farce. Shovel-ready? The only thing ready was the public's blind willingness to believe anything that sounded poetic. It was like ordering a steak and getting a scented candle instead. The recovery crawled out of the 2008 crater with the energy of a college kid nursing a hangover from campaign slogans. But hey, if you measure success by how many times you can say recovery summer without laughing, Obama was nailing it. Joe Rogan can't resist pointing out the irony of Obama going full Wall Street while selling himself as Main Street's messiah. The guy showed up at Goldman Sachs events with the vibe of a roadie who lost his guitar but still wants a jam. He bailed out the banks, let homeowners drown, then strutted on stage like he taught America to swim. It's the political version of robbing your neighbor's house and getting a thank you note for saving the neighborhood. Then Gutfeld shifts to the healthcare beat, wielding sarcasm like a scalpel. Obamacare, the crown jewel of his domestic legacy, was sold like a miracle elixir until people realized it was basically a Groupon for medical confusion. It was pitched as universal care, but felt more like a choose-your-own-adventure book written by the DMV. The website launch was such a train wreck, it made MySpace look like Amazon. Yet there was Obama, grinning through the glitches like a wedding DJ who doesn't realize the speakers are on fire.
Let's admit it, America. We miss Barack Obama.
Juan does.
There he is. In a recent speech, he said he had no real scandals in his White House, a jab at Trump.
We didn't have a scandal that embarrassed us. I know that seems like a low bar. Generally speaking, you didn't hear about a lot of drama inside our White House.
No drama. So to quote the TSA officer whose dog just sniffed my carry-on, let's unpack this. So why didn't you hear much about O's White House? Well, who was brave enough to look? There was never a cozier relationship between a president and the media, ever. If the White House were a bed, the press was the
Joe
mutt.
jumps straight into the cultural divide. Under Obama, America didn't just drift into identity politics. It cannonballed like a kid launching into a pool of Tumblr hashtags. Rogan, who thrives on calling out uncomfortable truths, couldn't ignore how the man branded as a unifier somehow managed to splinter the country into more categories in the snack aisle of Whole Foods. It stopped being about unity and started feeling like an Olympic event in outrage. Meanwhile, Gutfeld mocks the idea that you needed a secret decoder ring to grasp Obama's so-called brilliance, when really, all you needed was a stamina to sit through an hour of polished nothingness without dozing off. Joe then slams the mic down on surveillance state, that spy-thirsty monster that exploded under Obama like a dystopian fever dream. The NSA wasn't just tracking terrorists. They were probably eavesdropping on Grandma's banana bread recipe. The guy who campaigned on transparency built a digital panopticon, handed the keys to the deep state, and winked while crowds cheered like he delivered freedom instead of wiretaps.
Obama, during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy. Boy.
Really? Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did, just as an intelligent person. Right. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump, the thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
Who said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist
Rally.
which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017.
Yeah.
You know, I think it worked back then. I don't think it works anymore.
Greg grabs a legacy paintbrush and flings sarcasm, like Jackson Pollock, at a White House portrait. He rips into the Iran deal, calling the foreign policy version of betting your mortgage on a busted roulette wheel. You hand billions to a regime chanting death to America and then grin for the cameras like you just scored VIP passes to common sense. Gutfeld imagines Obama shaking hands with the Ayatollah, blindfolded, clutching a pen, surrounded by diplomats reading from completely different scripts. Then he swings at the immigration paradox piñata. Here's the same man who deported more people than anyone before him, yet delivered speeches dripping with bedtime story hope for activists. Rogan pictures Obama standing solemnly in front of the Statue of Liberty, waxing poetic about the American dream, then pulling a trapdoor lever under thousands of dreamers. It wasn't a sanctuary. It was an illusion gift wrapped in press releases and sold as compassion.
What they're doing. Or you go after other Democrats. Let the primaries start now. Go after Newsom or, go after Fetterman. Go after somebody. The media will gobble that up. Or you go after some foreign leader. Take an axe to Chi or go after the cartels or something. Get yourself banned from travel somewhere, okay? Mm-hmm. And then go after some CEO. Go after some big fat cat CEO that's just like hurting his workers and just running up prices. Go after that guy. And then you go on Rogan and you laugh at yourself. That is the recipe for getting attention without going after Donald Trump. Because every time you clash with Trump, you lose, and you look like you don't care about the rest of the American people.
And we've talked a lot about how the Democrats are trying to find the answer to Trump. They're trying to find the analog to him. But part of Obama's comments, too, he said, stop looking for the quick fix. Stop looking for the Messiah. You have a great candidates running races right now. Just focus on what you have in front of you.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, if you listen to Obama and you look at these inorganic protests, they say you have to have courage, rally, act, resist, but they don't. For what? What is the actual issue? When Trump owns every issue 80-20 by almost every metric, from the economy to crime to immigration, where are you? The high ground maneuver of common sense has relegated it into more extreme measures. Ask Obama, okay, where do I apply this courage? What space do I park it in? Should I double down on trans dudes in women's sports? Should I back the attacks on ICE? Should I
Gutfeld
show
swoops in on a
courage?
celebrity bromance. Because let's be real, Obama wasn't governing. He was posing for photo ops like the prom king of globalist galas. Every state dinner felt like the Oscars, just with slightly more nuclear codes on standby. Greg imagines Obama practicing his speech cadence in front of a mirror, candles flickering, the air scented with Tom Ford cologne. This wasn't leadership. It was curated aesthetic governance. Smooth jazz, flattering lighting, and a fact checker on retainer. Joe Rogan doesn't forget Chicago. How could he? The city where Obama cut his political teeth, while conveniently ignoring the spiraling violence, failing schools, and generational poverty in his own ideological backyard. Rogan calls it out. You don't get to fly over a crater and declare a garden. Chicago was the living, bleeding example of everything Obama claimed to champion, while he did nothing but raise campaign money and riff rhetorical jazz over the body count. Then Gutfeld swings at the climate change charade. Obama showed up at environmental summits in Air Force One, left with a tote bag of broken promises, and pitched green jobs like a kid hawking lemonade coupons during a blizzard. Meanwhile, the emissions kept rolling. Greg jokes Obama probably slapped a solar panel on his golf cart just to flex at Martha's Vineyard.
Tweeted Obama, part of the reason it's hard to bring about change is because we live in a media environment that elevates falsehoods as much as truths and divides people as much as it brings them together. Through the Obama Foundation, we're working to empower and equip emerging leaders to tackle issues like the spread of disinformation. Of course, as plenty of people immediately pointed out, it was Obama's Democratic allies who cooked up the Russian collusion hoax. Or how about Nick Sandmann, hands up, don't shoot, don't say gay, or the Hunter laptop story. They're all stories where the public was shielded from the truth with help from the Democratic-friendly legacy media, who try to diss any information that threatens their narrative. And by narrative,
Rogan lands a
I mean
haymaker with Obama's post-presidency glow-up. Here's a guy who once campaigned on hope and humility, now flexing as a global influencer with a podcast empire and a production company, preaching responsibility from a rooftop of a beachfront mansion. It's like watching someone sell their soul for applause, then resell inspirational merch to the same crowd. Joe doesn't miss the irony, lecturing about rising seas while sipping Mai Tais 5 feet above Atlantis. Greg Gutfeld jumps in Swinging on Race. Obama had a once-in-a-generation chance to heal deep wounds, to unite a fractured country, to truly deliver on the promise of being post-racial. Instead, Gutfeld says, he sprinkled division like Parmesan over a stale policy pasta. Greg pictures Obama delivering lofty speeches like a philosopher king, then ghostwriting the playbook for Twitter mobs. It wasn't about bridging divides. It was about branding dissenters as morally defective, weaponizing poetic guilt as policy. Disagree with his healthcare plan? Suddenly, you were treated like you needed a civics remedial class. 3/5 of citizen in the eyes of the hope and change crowd. Rogan doesn't skip the arrogance either. That subtle smirk, the professorial eyebrow raise. He calls a Harvard swagger. The IQ is assumed, the accountability outsourced. Obama acted like every question was beneath him, unless it came gift wrapped from a Vanity Fair writer or a room of Ivy League interns. And when real criticism showed up, his skin was thinner than the economic recovery chart in 2010.
Do you remember when they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this? And then they go, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the Armed Forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort
Gutfeld's
to protect...
not dropping the education fiasco either. He points out how Obama, the darling of academia, did more to empower bloated unions than to rescue crumbling schools. Greg can't help but laugh at the image. The man hailed as an intellectual giant letting inner-city classrooms rot while greenlighting million-dollar studies on whether squirrels get stressed about climate change. School choice? Forget it. Parental control? Optional at best. But if you wanted a lecture on systemic barriers and historic inequities, Obama had a 40-slide PowerPoint and a battalion of consultants ready to nod solemnly. Joe Rogan wraps the first round with a gut punch. Obama wasn't a leader. He was the smoothest salesman on earth, selling hope like a scented candle. Cool, minty, inspirational air. He made you feel like you were part of a righteous cause, even as your insurance premiums tripled and your local VA hospital ghosted you for 6 months. That was the trick. That was the con. He didn't govern. He narrated America's slow decline with a podcast voice and a 9-iron swing. And they both know this roast is far from over. There's still glitter, clinging to the illusion. More myths to shred. More symbolic trophies collecting dust in the moral display case of a man who swapped measurable results for perfectly branded sound bites. They're not done yet. Not even close. Because every time you think the show's over, Obama reappears with another Netflix deal and a new memoir every 14 minutes.
If you watch Fox News on a regular basis, it is a constant menu. They will find, like, folks who make me mad.
So let's analyze. He says Fox goes out of its way to locate and then demonize the poor. For what reason? So we can kill and eat them? His criticism is absurd because he never suggests a motive. FNC is always focused on policies that keep the poor poor.
Joe Rogan
not the
can't
poor.
help but laugh. Here's a guy who spent 8 years ducking real accountability, now peddling life advice like he's the Dalai Lama with a drone license. It's not leadership. It's lifestyle branding on a presidential scale. Obama turned his time in office into a streaming franchise, complete with memoirs and documentaries about American struggle, all filmed from the comfort of a multi-million-dollar state guarded tighter than Fort Knox. Gutfeld jumps on that hypocrisy like it's the final punchline at Comedy Roast. Obama didn't retire. He rebranded. He's pitching curated struggles while reality needs a background check just to get through a security gate. Joe snorts at the irony. Obama taught America to worship style over substance, to swoon over symbolism dressed up as profound truth. And now he's cashing in on it, like a Silicon Valley bro who just found out TED Talks pay better than politics. The country didn't get better, just better at pretending it did.